Smile Pretty Cure, the movie Big Mismatch in the picture book, is a lot of fun. It's a very good watch. I think it's very cool. And I enjoy that the movie starts off with the classic Pretty Cure. We're going to an amusement park of some sort, and that will then tie into the plot of the film. I'm realizing now that a lot of the Pretty Cures do that in some form or another. Specifically, the movies tend to do that a lot. I'm not fully sure why that is. I guess it's just an easy setup when you want to establish what's going to happen in the film. You kind of send them to a place that's similar to what's about to happen. The Yes Pretty Cure 5 movies do that a lot, where they're going to Princess Land, and this one is no different, where they end up going to a picture book amusement park or fair of some sort. And they say, hey, we're going to go check out all these picture books. We're going to do events where these authors who are writing some of these books are here. We're going to make our own drawings, all that kind of fun stuff. And I think that this movie uses that well to its advantage, because like the whole thing is about picture books, as this entire season basically is. A lot of Smile Pretty Cure is about picture books. And this movie does that also. And it even uses some of the picture books that they use in the season, which that part, I'm lukewarm on it, I suppose. Because there are only so many times you can watch a Pretty Cure Cinderella episode before you start going, okay, now, there are other fairy tales we can draw from. We could, find some other inspiration. Which is why I'm glad that this movie has a variety of famous stories and fairy tales to draw from for the main plot of the movie and all of the antagonists once they actually start showing up and all that. But before the antagonists actually show up, we get a fun little scene of they're all running around the amusement park. And I think that, especially in the early part, before they start actually doing a whole bunch of Pretty Curing, the bits of fun interactions they have are really good. And it carries over into once the plot of the film actually gets rolling. There are a lot of fun little moments that show just kind of how the characters are together and their personalities, I guess, a lot of the time. Because, right towards the beginning, when we first have Nico, an original character for this film, running through this desolate, barren landscape that looks like the place that Goku takes Vegeta to fight in when they say, let's fight somewhere empty. She jumps out of the movie screen that the Pretty Cure are watching while she's running through that landscape on the film they are watching. And then, in response to this, as she is flying through the air, instead of just landing in front of them or running into them or anything like that, after she gets launched out of the movie screen, we have just a 1 second, 2 second shot of Miyuki standing up in her chair and getting ready to catch Nico as she is flying out. And she does, as she still gets knocked over, and they fall down behind the chairs that they were sitting in onto the floor. But it's very fun, and I think it's a good show of Miyuki's character that she's, one, paying attention to the movie about picture books. She's been enraptured by the film as they were watching it, and that she is just immediately ready, no hesitation, to catch somebody flying through the air, even if it was somebody who got thrown out of a movie screen. And they have another similar moment not 5 seconds later, when two of the minor antagonists climb out of the movie picture behind her to hunt her down because they want to hunt down Nico. Now, I think it doesn't say it in the film, but I think it's pretty supposed to be clear that these guys were set up by Nico to chase her. I don't know if they know that, but, they do something with that, I guess. But these two characters who are from Journey to the West are climbing out and they chase her. And they're about to smash down into the seats that all of the Pretty Cure were sitting in. And Beauty is like, wow, 3D is so incredible. Which is really good. I feel like that carries on the bit of her being simultaneously the most intelligent and also the least out of their entire group, because there are so many things where she's like, yes, I'm very good at all of the school stuff, and also I have no common sense. And that's good and that's fun. And while she is too busy being excited about the special effects that are coming out of the movie screen, everyone else runs out of the way because their seats are about to get blown up by these dudes jumping out at them. And March runs back over and just grabs her hand and then pulls her out of the way before they all get smashed in the movie theater seats. And again, that's just a good, fun little character moment, because that is kind of how March lives her life. She is the big sister character. She's got like 18 siblings running around her house at all times, and so she's got a sixth sense for when other people are about to be hit by something, and pulls them out of the way, going big sister mode on Beauty in that shot. And it's just fun. They have a lot of good little moments like that throughout the course of the film. And it leads very quickly and very easily into, I guess, the setup for the plot is still going on. They're still kind of setting up what's about to happen in this movie with the fight with Kinjaku and Ginjaku from Journey to the West. They kind of got goofy designs, but that's a lot of the minor antagonists in this series, I suppose, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're just kind of shaped like gourds, despite the fact that they also have gourds on them. But they have a fun fight against them, and I think it's also kind of funny how readily ready the Smile Pretty Cure girls are to throwing hands. They are quick with it. They see these guys jump out of the movie screen and they go, "Nico, you're coming with us." And she goes, "I don't want to do that." And then the Smile Pretty Cure girls go immediately, "Okay, we have to beat these guys up, but we're going to right now. Doesn't matter what's going on. They're alone in this theater, so they can transform no problem." I guess they jump onto the roof also, like right after. But they are ready to throw hands, they're ready to throw down. They waste no time getting into it, and they immediately start fighting. And I think that's kind of fun. On the flip side of that, I think that they get beat up a lot in this film, especially in the later part of it, and I feel like that kind of holds true for a lot of Smile Pretty Cure as a whole. They take a beating. Like, most seasons of Pretty Cure, they'll get punched around, and they'll get knocked around, and they'll get, like, thrown to the ground, and it's like, "Oh, how are you gonna stand up now, Pretty Cure? My evil power is overwhelming." But they get just the absolute snot beat out of them in the later parts of this film, but not after they get to enjoy a little bit of storybook fun. Because once they finish off beating the guys who showed up to try to take Nico away, they get to go inside the storybook world. Because, you know, that's just kind of what you do on a Saturday, I guess, when they are at a fair. And a girl jumps out of a movie theater screen and says, "Hey, you want to go to the storybook world?" They say, yes, of course I do. That sounds like a great time." And they all get to play out a little bit of time as storybook characters. And it's kind of fun seeing the variety of the stories. It is interesting that Cinderella is the only, like, non-Asian fairy tale that they go into, which I guess makes sense. But also, come on now. Cinderella again? They do that so many times in this season specifically. It is crazy how many times we go Cinderella mode. But I guess, like, everybody knows it, so, like, it's an easy one to go with. I don't blame them for that part, but I wonder, like, if somebody on the writing team was just really into Cinderella for a while and they were just like, yes, Cinderella mention, let's go, let's get it done. All right. But they do also make it pretty clear that that's a not insignificant part of Miyuki's character. She's just into all of these storybooks. She's into these fairy tales throughout the series, and she's the reason why they are at this amusement park event in the first place. She wanted to come to this, and everybody said, yeah, sure, we'll go to that. That sounds fun. It's her day out. It's Miyuki's day out, and she's about to get beat up for it, but not after she gets to play around as Cinderella for a little while and be excited about the fact that she's going to get to go to the ball later, until the storybooks get swapped and the protagonists of the stories, whom her friends are replacing, start showing up at the different stories, and then the actual bad guy plot starts happening, because off screen, Nico, well, I guess it's not off screen, it's just out of frame for the characters. They don't know she's going evil mode, but she has very clearly tricked them for the audience, it is clear. And then all the bad stuff starts happening because she's got the evil in her. She's got the serial killer gene, no. But I do actually kind of like that Nico doesn't immediately reveal her villainy to the Pretty Cure. I think a lot of the time in the PreCure films, especially whenever they go somewhere kind of silly, kind of crazy, with somebody who is incredibly suspicious, they get there, and then the incredibly suspicious person immediately goes, yes, I'm going to send you to hell now. And then they have to just kind of live with the consequences of that. But they don't suspect anything from Nico, because she's cool, she's fine, she was fun. They smiled and had a good time together, I guess, as they were traveling through a sea of flowers and got eaten by a flower whale to get to the picture book world. But it's only to the viewer that Nico's treachery is revealed off the rip. And I kind of liked that about it. I liked that she tricked them outright and didn't like pull the rug out from underneath them immediately. I kind of liked that they had to sit in it for a little while and think that they were just gonna have a fun, normal, magical adventure together until the actual villainy of it came out. But I think that the real moral of the story there is to never trust a girl in a black dress in a Pretty Cure movie. I mean, Cure Black's, that's a skirt. She's not wearing a dress. But I feel like so many of the time when there are evil women, TM, in Pretty Cure, they are wearing a black dress. And, like, it's a really easy indicator for, I guess, their moral alignment. But I don't know, keep that in mind if you're ever going to a magical girl convention, is don't wear a black dress, or you will be possessed by a bad guy, or you are one. But, that could be funny also. That could be a really good bit, actually. But on the flip side of things, once the villainy of Nico is revealed and the former protagonists of these fairy tales are possessed by an evil shadow, the Pretty Cure all get chased around, and then they meet up and they start fighting for their lives. And the antagonists of some of these stories show up. And I also thought that was kind of a fun mix-up for it, because these antagonists are here. They're bad, not because they are villains, but because they haven't gotten to show up in the stories yet. The stories aren't progressing at all because they are all mixed up and wrong. This is the big mismatch. Title drop. But they want to get to show up in the stories because they get to be in the stories too, and they're like, hey, come on, this is ridiculous, let us in. Let us into the story. And I think it's a little obvious, but like it's kind of neat that the whole idea behind them mismatching these stories and not getting to progress these fairy tales is that the antagonist, the demon king of Nico's story, wants to make a world with no ends. There won't be happy endings or good or bad endings, which, obviously that's opposed to what the Pretty Cures want. They want to give everyone in the world a happy ending. Our main character, Miyuki, is literally cure happy. Her catchphrase is ultra happy. She becomes ultra happy Pretty Cure, or ultra cure happy. She is ultra happy Pretty Cure. Something, smile, 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 etc., etc. But the antagonists are our bad end trio and the bad end kingdom type stuff and all of that. So it's at least interesting that the antagonist of the film is like, nah, we're not getting an ending. We're going to exist in limbo. There is a stasis, and we are going to stay there. And they don't really elaborate on that at any point, which would have been cool. I think it would have been really neat if that had been something they had elaborated on a little bit more. Especially considering that in the final act, the Demon King is just like, no, I'm going to destroy you, and I'm going to destroy everything that's around us in this world. I'm covering it in brambles and thorns, I guess, also. And he's just kind of indiscriminately causing destruction, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when compared to the no good ends, no bad ends. There's not really a stasis to be made out of blowing things up. You're kind of bringing an end to it. But, I maybe reading into it a little too deep. I'm sure that's definitely not something that I've done dozens of times before as I'm watching these children's animated films from over a decade ago. It's fine. I'm not worried about it. But I like how they had that contrast set up to differ the movie antagonist from the main series protagonist. I also kind of liked that the movie antagonist is entirely unconnected to the television series antagonists. A lot of the times in the Pretty Cure films, the movie antagonists will be a subordinate of the main bad guy for the series, or it will be someone connected to them in some way. The Sweet movie had a guy he's like, oh, I'm going to destroy the music of the world, the sounds of the world, in preparations for Noise's return. And Friesen and Frozen were like, we're gonna freeze the world over in preparation for the Dark Lord's return. But the Demon Lord of Smile Pretty Cure is just like, I'm a guy from a storybook, and I hate you. And I'm so mad. But he's using Nico's hatred as fuel. And he's also gaslighting her. There was more than one scene where he's like, this is Miyuki's fault. I think you should hate her. Like, clearly, this is her fault. Maybe he's not, like, actually gaslighting. But it definitely comes pretty close to it when they're sitting in their manor together. And he's like, I don't know, man. It's just crazy how much she sucks and how much you should hate her. Like, if I were you, I would. And she's like, maybe I should hate her. But she's just a baby. She doesn't know any better. But I do like that there is, I don't know, Nico has her own character arc in the movie, and it goes by very quickly because we only have so many minutes to work with in the film, but she's deceptive, and then she is very outwardly aggressive, and then we see that she is aggressive because she is being basically lied to make her own negative emotions worse, so that guy can get more power and take over, because her story didn't have an end. And like, that is very clearly why the whole deal with, we're not going to end stories, there are no good or bad endings, because Nico never got her story's end, and the Demon Lord didn't either. Because as we see with the other antagonists in the movie, they want to show up in their stories too. It is part of their life, and their mission is, we're going to show up in the story, we're going to get beat up, but it's going to be fun, we're going to have a good time with it. But because Nico's storybook has her pages ripped out of it, no, they don't get that. And that builds the resentment that she feels over the years, and that the Demon Lord feels over the years also, and why they start working together to destroy Miyuki's smile. And boy, did they do that for a little bit. Like, they light her up, and they have their own little dramatic freak out. And honestly, that part of the film is surprisingly dramatic for how much of this season is pretty chill, but I guess that also is a pretty apt descriptor of this season. Most of the time, it's pretty chill. And then sometimes they'll just get like wickedly dramatic all of a sudden. Not in a bad way, just in a, this is straight up drama that is happening. And it's kind of fun. I've enjoyed when Smile Pretty Cure has done it like that. And I kind of enjoyed how this movie set it up like that. When Nico reveals the reason behind her treachery to the Pretty Cure and to Happy specifically, it crushes her because she feels like she's failed a friend, because she realizes, oh no, I never finished the story that I said I was going to. Now this girl hates me because we were going to be happy together, and now she's so mad. And I do think that the no hope type deal that gets brought up a lot of the time in Pretty Cure, and I feel like in media in general, is like, oh no, we can't do anything about it, I'm so depressed, but it's just me and my problem. I feel like it is very easy for that to become melodramatic instead of just being drama. And I feel like Smile Pretty Cure very could have easily fallen into that sort of melodrama with something like this. And they are having a magical girl spat in a storybook world. It would be par for the course if that had happened. But Happy is crushed, and Nico runs off. I'm like, that's fine. You know, they gotta drive the plot forward somehow. But her friends, Happy's friends, very quickly pull her out of the just stunned state that she was in from the reveals that were revealed to her. And they remind her about what she's doing and like try to get her to think about what she wants to be doing. And I like that they very quickly and easily address that problem. They don't make it go away. She's not like, oh, it's not a problem anymore. I'm over it, guys. But I guess she does kind of get over it in a way. But they do it in a way where she has grown a little bit as a character, because she's not depressed because she failed before. Now she is motivated because she failed before, and she wants to do better by Nico by the end of it. And they continue to do that, because then they go and get beat up for 20 minutes by the other protagonists turned antagonists of these storybooks, and then they get their princess forms because the Demon Lord shows up and shoots a big beam at them, and their unicorn phoenix attack gets blown up, and then they all get beat up, and they get beat up again and again. The Smile Pretty here takes so much of a beating. It is brutal. You put them in any other shonen show, and they are going to be a punching bag, but you know how it is. They just keep getting back up. And then the Demon Lord is like, oh, Nico, I don't need you anymore because you're rebelling against me and you're trying to protect the Pretty Cure, whom you should hate, by the way. And tries to blow her up, and then Happy jumps in front of the attack. They don't even show Happy jumping in front of the attack because she is so badly beaten from being hit by other lasers and stuff. She just throws her already basically unconscious body in front of the attack again. But then that's when she gets her Ultra Cure Happy mode, and she gets her another really cool power-up, and the Ultra Cure Happy mode is very cool. I like that design a lot. It's very fun. Their super designs in this series in general are just really cool. I like the large dresses and the halo especially that they have. It's just neat. It's very cool visually, and they get to do that for fun in the movie. And I feel like it wasn't a sudden end to the film, but it did come very quickly once things got rolling towards the ends there. But then they get to, fix all the problems. They solve it through the power of friendship, and get this, you're never gonna believe it based on the name of the season, smiles. If we had a nickel for every time that they talked about smiles in this movie, we'd have like $8, because they talk about smiles a lot. Like a lot. I think when I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, like, what are we, some kind of smile Pretty Cure? But that joke sucks, and it made me laugh thinking about it. It's very good. But it's fun. It's just a good movie. It's very fun. I like that it had the fairy tales and kind of mixed them up. And I think that they do a lot with fairy tales in this movie, and or in this series in general. Like, that's fine, but it's good. Smile Pretty Cure is just really solid overall. It's a very fun season. It has a very good movie. It has a good crossover movie. Like, it's like this movie. I feel like it's just like a solid 9 out of 10. It's good.